Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. After 155 days of war, Ukraine will not rest until it has liberated all its land from the Russian invaders. The Ukrainian counteroffensive against the Russian-controlled Kherson in southern Ukraine is gaining momentum. This morning, Russian forces launched a large-scale missile attack on Ukraine from Belarusian territory. Ukraine is over 1,000 years old, but it is only this year that the country celebrates its statehood for the first time. This celebration was established by presidential decree on the 24th of August last year, for the 28th of July, the day previously established for the baptism of Kiev and Rus Ukraine. Today we defend our statehood, arms in hand, 155 days in a row, so that you can say that for us, Statehood Day is every day. All stages of the history of Ukraine's statehood, its defence and struggle for it can be described in one sentence. We were, we are, and we will be. We will be there because our country has remarkable sons and daughters who stood up for it. Ukrainians do not know the word captivity and will fight for their statehood until the last breath, the last bullet and the last soldier. We will live to fight and fight to live. Russian forces fired 25 missiles from the territory of Belarus. 6 cruise missiles were launched from the Black Sea. Most were shot down. Infrastructure in the Vyshgorod and Bukiv regions near Kiev and the villages in the Cherniv, Kryvyi and Dnepropetrovsk districts were damaged. Residential buildings and civil infrastructure were destroyed in the cities of Kyiv, Kharkiv, Mykolaiv and Toretsk. 5 people were killed and 25 injured in the shelling of the town of Kropyvnytsky. Today, on Statehood Day, the Russians fired more than 20 missiles at Ukraine. 5 fell in the Kiev region. Such audacious actions prove once again that this is an attack not only on our land, but on our independence and identity. But the Ukrainians were, are and will be. A century of history shaped us as a nation. Anti-aircraft alarms sounded all night in Odessa, but the situation in the region and the city is under control. Also, at night, a fire broke out in the territory of the Odessa commercial port, and wood caught fire on one of the piers. We managed to put it out quickly. It was not related to the fire. Please follow the fire safety rules, especially on hot days. In accordance with the provisions of the agreement concluded in Istanbul to unblock the export of Ukrainian grain, yesterday Ukrainian ports in Odessa, Black Sea and Pivdeni were reopened. However, a new sea route must first be mapped out. Meanwhile, in Istanbul, the Joint Coordination Centre, comprising representatives of Ukraine, Russia, Turkey and the United Nations, has started operations. It doesn't scare me to go back. Of course there is a slight anxiety, but it is good that inspections will be carried out and that other ships will be escorting us. It makes us feel safer. Since the 24th of February, over 5 million Ukrainians have crossed the Ukrainian-Polish border. Let me remind you that this is the number of entries. There are people who can cross the border several times. At the same time, in the direction of departure from Poland to Ukraine, border guard officers carried out almost 3,200,000 border checks. In recent weeks, the number of people checked in has remained at the level of 22,000 to 27,000, sometimes in both directions. Sometimes there are more in the entry direction, sometimes the other way around. There is no constant trend. However, there are certainly fewer people evacuating from Ukraine to Poland. In the first days of March, there were even more than 96% of such people. Currently, there are about 8% of such people. On the other hand, more and more young people are leaving the territories occupied by Russia. One of the reasons for this is their reluctance to study at universities that provide education in line with the Kremlin's guidelines. Brussels has taken another step to support Ukraine. The European Union will double electricity imports from Ukraine. Both parties will benefit from the agreement. For Kiev, this means additional money to defend against the Russian invasion and to rebuild the country after the war. The European Union, in turn, will gain additional energy, which will help to avoid blackouts. We are preparing to increase the export of our electricity to consumers in the European Union. Despite the war, we ensured the connection of the Ukrainian power grid with the entire European energy system in record time. Our exports not only allow us to generate income in foreign currencies, but also help our partners withstand Russian energy pressures. We will gradually make Ukraine one of the guarantors of European energy security, thanks to our domestic electricity production. The German federal government has approved the sale of 100 howitzers to Ukraine. On the 13th of July, the Vice-Chancellor of Germany, Robert Habeck, gave his consent, but the German arms company only now confirmed this information and stipulated that the production of the equipment would take several years. Ukraine submitted an offer in April. The total value of the contract is €1.7 billion, several times more than the total value of all weapons supplied by Germany so far. United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken will talk to his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, about the release of American citizens arrested in Russia. The politicians have not spoken since the beginning of the Russian invasion of Ukraine 5 months ago. The subject of the discussion is the release of 2 Americans held in Russia. Paul Whelan was detained in 2018 on suspicion of espionage. Brittany Griner, a famous American basketball player, was arrested in February this year after an e-cigarette cartridge with hash oil, which is banned in Russia, was found in her luggage.
She had to tell the truth, what she did. So she explained how she arrived in Russia, what happened to her, how these cartridges ended up in her luggage, so it was absolutely no intention.
American prisoners would be exchanged for the Russian arms dealer Viktor Butt, who was serving a sentence in the United States. But according to Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov, there is no agreement yet. The first thing we know is that there have indeed been such reports and some statements. Second, we also know that by raising such topics, information attacks are not carried out. And third, so far, there have been no agreements in this area. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un said his country was ready to mobilize its nuclear war deterrent and counter any United States military action. He criticized South Korea's new president for the first time, warning that Seoul was pushing towards the brink of war. According to state media, Kim made the remarks during a speech at an event to mark the 69th anniversary of the 27th of July Korean War armistice, which left the 2 Koreas technically still at war. Our armed forces are thoroughly prepared to respond to any crisis, and our state's nuclear war deterrence is also fully ready to mobilize its absolute strength faithfully, accurately and promptly to its mission. The Duplex Act of the United States, which is misrepresenting all routine actions of our armed forces as a provocation and threat while holding large-scale joint military exercises that seriously threaten our security, is literally a robbery. This is driving bilateral relations to the point where it is difficult to turn back into a state of conflict. I make it clear once again that the Democratic People's Republic of Korea is fully ready for any military confrontation with the United States. Kim also denounced South Korea's new conservative president, Yoon Suk-yeol, by name for the first time, and labelled attempts to neutralize the North military as nonsense. If you think you can neutralize or destroy part of our military power, it's nonsense. Such a dangerous attempt will immediately be punished by a powerful force, and Yoon Suk-yeol's government and his army will be annihilated. That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business, and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.